Every horror franchise has a standout sequel. You think about Friday the 13th, you have Jason Lives. You think about Nightmare on Elm Street, you have Dream Warriors. You think about Children of the Corn, you have all right, well, maybe not every franchise, but what about Halloween? What is our standout sequel in the Halloween franchise? Well, a lot of people would say Halloween 2, and also a lot of people would say Halloween 2018. Today, I nominate Halloween 4. Amazing to me that after all these years, it still feels like Halloween 4 is actually underrated. I know it's pretty well thought of, it's decently praised, but you never really see it stand out on the top of a top Halloween sequel list. So today I'm going to make the argument that Halloween 4 is not only the best sequel, but that it should be the consensus best sequel. And that's very controversial, I know, amongst Halloween fans who, again, typically rank Halloween 2 and Halloween 2018 as the best sequels. But listen, I'm here to give my Halloween opinions, no matter how controversial or how much of a hot take you may think it is. Halloween 4 fans, let's come together. Today we fanboy out over Halloween 4. Let's get into my favorite things, the positives, the best things about Halloween 4. Now, others may be different in terms of what they look for in a Halloween movie, but for me, when I turn on a Halloween movie, I want to be in the Halloween autumn fall vibe. I want to watch it around Halloween time, turn it on. I want to see leaves falling. I want to see pumpkins being carved. I want to see kids trick or treating, the complete Halloween experience. And some of the sequels do a good job with that, and some of the sequels do not do a good job with that. But I'm going to say, first off, right off the bat, Halloween 4 nails the Halloween vibe. Let's take a look at this opening here, which is amazing. Now, listen, you can't get more Halloween than this. I mean, you know how some people will put on The Office or Friends in the background as a, sort of like a comfort show? Well, this would be my comfort show right here. I'm just going to play the Halloween opening on loop and as I fall asleep. Maybe not. But, you know, this is one of those areas that I wouldn't want to live in, but I would love to drive through every Halloween. You have the kids trick or treating. You have that fall vibe. The only movie in the series I would say that probably nails the Halloween vibe more than Halloween 4 is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. Another movie that I do think is also underrated. But this movie gets amazing points for feeling the Halloween vibe. No complaints here at all. If I had to nail down one thing that Halloween 4 gets right, it's the characters. Now, characters in horror movies, I mean, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes you get characters you don't care about. Sometimes you're cheering for the villain. There's a lot of Freddy movies where we're cheering for Freddy because the characters are weak. There's definitely a lot of Jason movies where we're cheering for Jason. But this is a Halloween movie where even though it's Halloween 4 and we're, really into the Michael Myers craze here, I don't find myself cheering for Michael Myers in this movie. I find myself squarely in the corner of the characters, wanting to survive, wanting to defeat Michael Myers. That's not always the case. So I want to give a big shout out to the characters here. I'm gonna make the argument right now that this movie has the best characters of any sequel in the franchise. So let's talk about them one by one. The first one being Jamie Lloyd, played by the fantastic Danielle Harris. I think I first saw Danielle Harris on an episode of Boy Meets World, and then also saw her in Last Boy Scout, and then went back and saw her in Halloween 4 and 5. Now, her being so amazing here, actress acting wise and character wise, I think it's worth noting because for me, at least personally, I'm not always the biggest fan of child actors in horror movies. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not so great. But she kills it there. She immediately takes over the role of, our main person that Michael is chasing here. Michael obviously was after Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode now has died off screen. So we need someone to fill that void. And immediately from the opening scenes, we are, at least for me, I'm on board with Jamie Lloyd. I'm, cheering for her. I'm wanting her to get away from Michael. And she sells getting chased by Michael all throughout the movie. She sells fear, she sells terror. We're there every step along the way. Just a great final girl, if you want to call her that, in terms of Jamie Lloyd. Now, one great thing about this movie is that we don't just have one final girl; we have two final girls. We also have Rachel Carruthers playing Jamie Lloyd's sort of big sister role. We can say she certainly acts like a big sister, and I got to say, Rachel Carruthers is probably one of the more underrated final girls in horror history. She doesn't get talked about a lot. I think probably because of the sort of BS way they killed her character off in part 5. Not going to go into that though right now. She definitely was done a disservice, but let's talk about her in Halloween 4. Just following her character throughout the movie. She always is there for Jamie Lloyd. She fights back against Michael in many different circumstances. She shows bravery, courage. She's everything you want in a final girl. And again, you know, you want to see more of her character. Of course, we did in part 5, but again, let's not mention that. And then of course, to complete our trifecta here of heroes, we have Dr. Loomis, back from the grave, the only man that can blow himself up and still be alive and ticking because he won't stop until he takes out Michael Myers. Now, this movie is the beginning of sort of the descent into unhinged Loomis, I would say. He's not quite at Halloween 5 levels yet, but he's clearly slowly losing his mind as Michael has certainly had a huge impact on his mental health. But listen, Jamie Lee Curtis didn't come back, so Donald Pleasance became sort of the backbone of the franchise, the heart of the franchise, and you really see it here. He's constantly playing protector role to Jamie Lloyd. He's always initiating action. He's like always proactive about trying to take out Michael. And man, I'll tell you what, certain scenes, especially the ending there, Donald Pleasance gives a fantastic performance there at the end. Just my favorite protagonist in the series. So his presence here, fantastic. Together, you have that trifecta of heroes. I mean, how often do we get 3 sort of main hero characters that we can cheer for? None of the other sequels has that. So that's a big thing, but it's not just about the main characters in the series. It's about the supporting cast. A lot of times, the supporting cast, those minor characters in horror movies, sort of get the shaft in terms of character development, in terms of making the audience care about them, and especially the Halloween sequels. There's a lot of death scenes, kills, a lot of minor characters in the Halloween series who, you forget them almost immediately when they're off screen. But Halloween 4 with the minor characters, I would say does it really well. I want to start with Sheriff Meeker. Now, Meeker of all the sheriffs, I know a lot of fans probably love Sheriff Brackett, which hey, I do too. And Meeker is fantastic in terms of just immediately believing Loomis. He does not think Loomis is full of shit. He's immediately on board, immediately trying to stop another massacre from happening in Haddonfield. Meeker mostly acts intelligent throughout the movie. Most of his decisions are smart. As a viewer watching it, I don't second guess him. Feel bad for him what happened to his daughter. And let's talk about his daughter. His daughter, who ultimately, I guess you could say, is playing sort of the Melissa from Friday 13th Part 7, the sort of human villain girl who we're supposed to cheer against and all that. And maybe she's the closest thing to a sort of unlikable character. But by making her the sheriff's daughter, you still kind of feel bad about the whole dynamic because you're thinking like, damn, the sheriff just lost his daughter. So even if you don't like her character, you still don't necessarily want to see her, what happens to her. And let's talk about Brady for a moment. Now, Brady also likewise could have been a one-note human villain character who cheated on Rachel, and Rachel's mad at him, and he could be basically somebody you want to see get his comeuppance, and you're not really that upset when he dies. And the movie does a really good thing here with his character because even though, yes, he seems like kind of a jerk, when the moment comes for him to defend Rachel and Jamie, not to say he full on sacrifices himself, but he clearly cares about them. He tells them to get up in the attic and he boldly tries to fight Michael. Now, fighting Michael in hindsight seems like a stupid decision because Michael basically beats the shit out of him and then kills him. But Brady showed some courage and kind of redeemed himself. You end up feeling pretty good about the character because you're like, hey, when push came to shove, he didn't back down. And I think that's could have been easily a one-note character, which this movie just put in the script to actually make you feel something for them when they died, or look back on the character with somewhat of a good feeling about. So again, props to the writer. I don't know if it was intentional, but a lot of the characters here, even if they start off in kind of a way that you think they're going to be jerks, they kind of redeem themselves in a way. Now, I do want to talk about the mob for a moment. So this is, in my opinion, Evil Dies Tonight done properly. I don't know if Halloween Kills got the idea of the mob from Halloween 4, but I just think it's way better executed here for one clear reason. It's that the mob, when push comes to shove at the end, they make the right decision.
Sense to me. Let's get the hell out! Out of the police station. Let the troopers have him. That's what they get paid for. Screw it. Let's get out of here. Hell.
Thank you. Thank you, mob. Now, of course, we're gonna just brush aside. I do want to say that I do feel bad for Ted Hollister, who gets killed by the mob, and that sort of gets brushed under the rug. But that aside, The mob again could have been one note characters, but at the end, you kind of feel like they did the right thing, and it just happened to be unfortunate for them that Michael was hanging on to the car and basically deleted them all from existence. But still, compared to the Halloween Kills mob, which I don't know if you guys remember ultimately the strategy that the Halloween Kills mob took against Michael. If you have forgotten, let me remind you of their strategy.
We're all gonna die. It's gonna kill us one by
Yeah, well, that was pretty much it. It wasn't quite successful, but so yeah, I'm huge fan of how they handled the mob here. So we have a great Halloween vibe and we have fantastic characters. But what about the ending? Now, the ending is another huge positive of this movie. This movie really nails the landing with the ending. I might call it Corey done right. Corey, famously from Halloween Ends, we have that whole arc about evil being transferred over. It just makes a lot more sense here with Michael's evil transferring into Jamie Lloyd. Jamie Lloyd, who wearing the clown costume that Michael has from part one, brings us a full circle ending here where she stabs her mom, standing at the top of the stairs. Loomis finds her, goes batshit crazy. Loomis goes so crazy, he pulls out the gun. He's about to shoot Jamie Lloyd right there on the spot. So that's, again, amazing acting by Donald Pleasance. This ending is so good that honestly, this could have been a great ending for the franchise. If you hate Halloween 5, hate Halloween 6, you could just pretend that this is the end here because it's a proper ending. It's a full circle ending. And you'd have those first four movies being a fantastic franchise. All those movies, there's no bad movies. Halloween 5, in my opinion, is the first one you get to where you're like, oh shit, this thing is going off the rails. So you have a wonderful ending as well. So got to give props to that. Now, listen, with all this praise, I do want to say that the movie is not without its flaws. I'm not here to say that it's an amazing movie that doesn't have some big issues. Probably the biggest issue we can talk about is Michael himself. Now, I don't know why the mask looks so weird. I don't know why Michael's wearing shoulder pads, why his posture looks so odd, but Michael's a little bit off in this movie himself. I mean, he's still creepy. He's still hanging in the shadows. He's still kind of filmed the right lighting, in my opinion, but his appearance, his mask, the look, the walk, it is a little bit off. It doesn't feel like the same character from part one. So if you watch part one and part two and then watch this Michael, it's a little bit jarring. Also, for some random reason, Michael having pink hair, I don't know what the hell was going on in that scene. I can't defend that scene at all. Also, let's talk about these kids that are bullying Jamie Lloyd at school. What the hell, man? I mean, these are the most evil kids. These kids might be more evil than Michael Myers. I mean, Jesus, Jamie's an orphan. My goodness. So yeah, there's some issues here with that for sure. And also to be honest, I mean, one thing as well is that in the Halloween documentaries I watched growing up and just kind of the online chatter, I was at the opinion, I was always under the impression that Halloween 4 was a huge box office success, but it really wasn't that big of a hit. If you look at the box office for that versus like, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, Dream Master, which came out the same year, Nightmare 4 was way bigger. So this wasn't the huge box office hit that I originally thought. And it makes me wonder why Halloween 5 was rushed into production so quickly. I mean, a lot of the problems with Halloween 5 is that it came out so fast after Halloween 4 that you can tell within the writing that it was rushed and sloppy and a lot of things didn't make sense there. So box office doesn't really indicate quality by any stretch, but that's one thing that comes to mind about Halloween 4 is that it wasn't really a huge success in the way you might expect. Yeah, so there's some flaws in the movie for sure, but even flaws included, I still think those flaws are more minor than the flaws in the other sequels. I think that there's no flaws in this movie that are sort of damning, is what I would say. Now, all this said, though, can it be qualified as the best sequel in the franchise? This is the tough part because at the beginning, I did say that a lot of fans prefer Halloween 2 and Halloween 2018. So let me do kind of a quick comparison between Halloween 4 and those two movies. Halloween 2 is fantastic. I know I'm using the word fantastic a lot. I sound like actually PJ Souls from Halloween Part 1. Halloween 2 is a great sequel. I mean, let's be honest. One of the best things about that movie is that it picks up right where Part 1 left off. You have Dean Cunley's cinematography standing out. It feels like a perfect companion piece to Part 1. But is it actually a better movie than Halloween 4? When I break the two movies down, the things I like about Halloween 4, in my opinion, are sort of missing from Halloween 2. Atmosphere wise, you could say the hospital in Halloween 2 is pretty atmospheric, claustrophobic even. Uh, but so much time being spent in the hospital, it does kind of take away from the Halloween vibe, in my opinion. It doesn't feel like Halloween at all at that point. Characters, if we're being honest about Halloween 2, Laurie Strode's in the hospital for most of the movie. It almost feels like more like a cameo for Jamie Lee Curtis. And the hospital staff really are sort of nameless characters who you really don't care about. When they die, I not only do I not care, I don't even know their names, most of them. I know Jimmy because he's interacting with Laurie Strode, but I really don't care about the hospital staff at all. Whereas Halloween 4 has memorable characters where I remember all their names and actually are sad to see them die. Halloween 2 does have a great Donald Pleasance performance, and I think that he's probably the only character outside of Laurie that you care about in the movie. So, yeah, atmosphere wise, characters wise, I give the edge to Halloween 4. And the ending of Halloween 2 is excellent, though. I'm going to say that. The ending of Halloween 2 is right up there with the ending of Halloween 4. But I think if you gave the Dean Cundley cinematography the same aesthetic to Halloween 4, and if you put the version of Michael in Halloween 2 in Halloween 4, which Dick Warlock in Halloween 2 did a fantastic, I keep using that word, did an amazing job as Michael. If you kind of plug those holes, I think Halloween 4 would certainly come out ahead big time, but I don't think Halloween 2 stands out in those areas enough to be a better sequel. I think that certainly I understand why it's considered that. I understand why it's so memorable. But movie to movie, I think Halloween 4 gets the big things right better than Halloween 2 does. Now, Halloween 4 versus Halloween 2018. I want to preface this by saying that I'm not as high on Halloween 2018 as others are. I know that it's a very popular entry in the series. I know that box office wise, I think it may still actually be the biggest, highest grossing slasher film of all time, potentially. So Halloween 2018 was a monster when it came out. And I don't know if the sequels to Halloween 2018 kind of cheapen 2018 for me in the same way that maybe Halloween 5 does cheapen, Halloween 4 a little bit as well. But Halloween 2018 on the surface, I think, is a solid Halloween movie. You have a great, great Michael Myers performance. The Michael Myers in Halloween 2018 is significantly better. It's scarier, creepier, tougher, in all aspects better than the Michael Myers we get here in Halloween 4. I'm going to say this, though. Characters-wise, I still prefer the characters in Halloween 4. I never quite cared for Allison and Laurie's daughter from the Halloween trilogy, as much as I cared about the characters in Halloween 4. And Laurie Strode herself in Halloween 2018, her being, that paranoid about something that happened 40 years ago with someone who's been locked away for 40 years, her being, in full Sarah Connor mode, it didn't quite click with me. I actually find Laurie Strode and H2O to be a better performance from Jamie Lee Curtis and almost a more realistic depiction of, in my opinion, what Laurie Strode might be like. But even that said, the fact that Laurie Strode is such a badass, to me, it makes me never really feel like she's in danger in Halloween 2018. It makes me feel like, even if Michael's coming after her, she's been built up with so many weapons, so much combat training, so much that's like, you just know that Laurie Strode's going to win and take out Michael. Whereas in Halloween 4, with Jamie Lloyd and with Dr. Loomis and the Rachel Crothers, they're a little bit more vulnerable to me. So it's a little bit easier to be scared for them and to feel like Michael. And also the fact that there's multiple main characters feels like, well, one of them might die. I mean, would I have been surprised in Halloween 4 if Michael killed Rachel Crothers? No, it could have happened. Would I have been surprised if he killed Dr. Loomis? Yes, that might have surprised me. But the fact having multiple main characters means that you're a little bit more scared because you're like, well, they could lose Rachel here. They could lose Dr. Loomis. They're probably not going to kill Jamie Lloyd. But so I feel like the trifecta of heroes in Halloween 4 is a stronger stronger main character group than what we get in Halloween 2018. So I'm going to go ahead and side with Halloween 4 there. Atmosphere vibe, I still go with Halloween 4 there. I don't think that Halloween 2018 nails the Halloween vibe at all. I don't think Halloween 2018 has enough chase scenes. It doesn't have enough Michael stalking in the background. I mean, for it to be a direct continuation of part 1, it feels like Halloween 4 sort of tries to mimic certain things from Halloween 1 more than Halloween 2018 does. But Halloween 2018 is a better directed movie. You could argue that some of the acting is better, maybe not the better characters, maybe better acting. And I understand if you prefer Halloween 2018, I get that completely. I just think that Halloween 4 gives you more of what I'm looking for in a Halloween movie. So listen, that's my take on Halloween 4. I think for me, it's my favorite sequel in the franchise. Love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Let me know in the comments how you feel about it. Halloween 4 fans. Rejoice. Let's come out, put this movie where it needs to be in the Pantheon, because a lot of times it doesn't get mentioned with the top tier sequels, and I think it should be.